3分钟带您快速了解班农。作为除郭先生外全世界第一反共斗士，班农先生的鼎鼎大名如今可算是家喻户晓。鉴于许多墙内同胞对真实信息的获取渠道有限，今天就由我令狐冲为大家快速简单的介绍一下班农先生的个人背景。班农先生全名史蒂夫·班农，1953年出生于弗吉尼亚州一个普通的天主教工人家庭。他中学毕业于一所天主教男子军校，大学就读于名校弗吉尼亚理工学院，主修城市规划与管理学。在此期间，他还成功当选了学生会主席。大学毕业后，班农先生被授衔海军军官，进入海军舰艇部队服役。在1980年伊朗人质危机期间，曾奉命前往波斯湾参与著名的鹰爪行动，后来被调去五角大楼任职海军作战部部长的助理。期间他边工作边上夜校，从乔治城大学获得了国防学硕士学位。他总共服役7年，退役时官至上尉。退伍后，班农先生先是于哈佛大学商学院获得了工商管理学硕士学位，然后任职于高盛投资银行。在80年代末，他辞去副总裁的职位，与友人一起创立了一家主打媒体业务的投资公司。从90年代起，班农先生开始进军电影业，成为了一名制片人。至今，他总共拍摄了一共18部电影。此外，他还是右翼新闻网站布莱特巴特新闻网的创始人之一。以上是班农先生过去的一些背景。使他真正走进大众视野的是2016年的总统大选。2016年8月，班农先生受邀成为川普竞选团的执行总监。11月份大选期间，经川普钦点晋升为首席智囊。大选辩论第一轮，川普先生因为状态不佳不敌希拉里。第二场辩论前夕，更是被好莱坞爆出了多年前调侃女性的不雅录像。正处于竞选关键时期的川普不得不出面当众道歉，可谓雪上加霜，锐气尽失。就在这危机时刻，班农先生秘密联络了数个当年曾被克林顿总统侵犯过的妇女，并在辩论会现场临时召开了记者招待会，发起了绝地反击，震惊全国媒体，打得希拉里措手不及。川普先生这才借此一去挫态，一鼓作气力压希拉里，最后赢得大选，成为美国总统。班农先生这招天降奇兵，可谓力挽狂澜，扶大厦将倾。班农先生为川普总统获胜起到了关键性的作用。在川普总统任职初期，班农更是白宫绝对的首席智囊。2017年末，川普总统更是调其进入美国国家安全委员会。班农一时权倾朝野，风头无两。当年的《时代周刊》更是评论班农为全世界第2最有权力的人。至于后来班农先生为何要离开白宫，各大媒体众说纷纭，在下资历尚浅，不敢妄加评论，还望各位自行斟酌。如今，班农先生与郭先生合作，在全世界发表演讲，普及共产主义以及极左思想的危害性，算是卯足了劲要消灭中共这颗毒瘤。他是中国人民真正的
We're actually live streaming it on one of my Chinese partners. We're going to take the live stream and actually break the firewall and put it into the People's Republic of China. Nice. Davos, man, it's a complete sham. At Davos, Xi shows up. President Xi. Remember, he gives that speech, the Save Globalization. The Economist, the Financial Times, all of them. He is the hero. He's the hero who's going to save globalization. In fact, he specifically puts all the problems in the world are on these populists and these nationalists. Right? They're screwing up the system. The system's got to be more globalized. And Xi is going to lead us to a great new dawning future. Look, the consulting firms, the accounting firms, the law firms, the investment banks, they all trade in one thing, it's information. They're plenty smart. They know about the gulags, okay? They know about the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan Buddhists. They know about the evangelical Christians and the Catholics. They know the gulag that Xi and Washi Shan run as a surveillance state on their own people. There's not a finer group of people in the world than the Chinese people. 1.4 billion people, 90 million members of the Communist Party. The 1.3 whatever billion don't own any property, no land. They own no stock. They own no assets. It's a totalitarian dictatorship as bad or worse as anything we saw in the 1930s. And Davos man knows that. So why is this guy held up as an all-conquering hero? You know why? Money. That's what they worship at Davos, money. They have zero moral authority to dictate to populists and nationalists and sovereignty anything.
Europe leads in this populist nationalist revolt. This is a hotbed. Europe's a hotbed for this populist nationalist, and I'm learning every day. The party of Davos loves democracy until it starts going against it. And here's what's so stunning. These elections are not even close now. The rejection of the party of Davos in Italy is 2/3 of the vote. I've been a populist at heart, and I'm dedicated to this populist movement. The last 10 years, I've dedicated to helping build this populist movement. So I'm a populist and I'm a nationalist, and wherever I can either observe or give people some advice, I'll be there in forums. Nationalist message, which focuses on workers and focuses on citizens and focuses on their betterment. Donald Trump's engagement. So ask the TPP nations 2 questions. Who's more engaged now in solving the solution in the Northwest Pacific? And as China has built 7 stationary aircraft carriers in the South China Sea during Obama's pivot to Asia.
I think, Steve Bannon, that you've done in the last year and a half, that you're ashamed of.
Oh, absolutely not. I'm actually quite proud of what we've done, what we've accomplished. And I hope to accomplish more in the future. So
no regrets.
Not a regret in the world.
It shouldn't be raising its head today. That's the problem. The problem is that the elites in this world, the capital markets guys from Frankfurt, the city of London, Wall Street, the international corporations, they've been running this scam for 20 years, financing, providing the technology to a radical cadre of the CCP that's built up this kind of Frankenstein monster that's essentially gutted working class people throughout the world. Brexit and 2016 are inextricably linked. For the last 20 years, the most significant story was the radicalization of the Chinese Communist Party to suppress their own people, the noble and decent people of the People's Republic of China. It turned it basically into slave labor for the West, so they can make goods for the corporatists at higher margins and sell it back to the unemployed and underemployed in the West. That day is over, which saw President Trump and others. We've now engaged in what we understand is an economic war against the industrial democracies, an economic war against working class people. And that war is by the radical cadre of the CCP, by Wall Street, by the City of London, and by the international corporations. And that is over. I think where you don't allow it to have concentration of power, I think where you don't allow it to get out of control, where you have this kind of permanent political class and elite, and kind of this merger between state capitalism and government. And this is what you're seeing in China today, right? This is what you're seeing in various aspects of the West. That has to be broken up. Entrepreneurial capitalism, where the little guy gets a shot, is the best form of capitalism. You do that, and you've opened up the possibility of true freedom for working class people. You know, this is a world revolution going on right now. And you have to see reality of what reality is. And no, I don't think in Washington, President Trump in the West, I think you're starting to see devolve a very thought-through plan. The United States does not want to be an imperial power. We're not looking for protectors. Working class people in the United States are looking for allies in the West, in the Judeo-Christian West, in the Middle East, in Central Asia, in China. The greatest ally we're ever going to have is old 100 names, the working class people in China. Very briefly about North Korea, and this shows you the haplessness of the European Union. It was the Clinton, the Bush, the Obama administration, and the haplessness, complete, total haplessness of the EU and all the happy talk that allowed North Korea to get the ballistic missile technology and all the nuclear warhead technology they got. Okay, for 30 years, right? All this great negotiating power, all this rule of law, all this great stuff. You had a criminal junta putting together a nuclear plant. North Korea is a vassal state of Beijing. And that is President Trump is handling these negotiations. We've made more progress with North Korea in confronting these issues and with Beijing in President Trump's tenure than the 30 years of haplessness between the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, and our partners in the EU. They're the ones that created and allowed North Korea to be created and be the great threat to Japan and South Korea it is. And I happen to believe not Iran, and not Venezuela, and not the North German plane with the Russians. The single most dangerous, and not North Korea and the Northwest Pacific, the single most dangerous place in the world, the place where the next war could start, unless we're very wise about how we handle it, is the South China Sea. And this is the provocation of the expansionist power of this radical cadre of the CCP that built those islands and had the Democratic Party and Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and that whole gang had the Munich of the 21st century when they allowed those stationary islands, which are basically aircraft carriers, to be built. This is the central issue, I think, of freedom in the world, the free navigation of the South China Sea and the dismantling of those islands that the Chinese Communist Party, the radical cadre of Huan Xishan and Xi, have put down there to make the South China Sea an eternal sea of the radical cadre, the CCP. This is where the European Union looked the other way. This is where Obama looked the other way. This is where Joe Biden looked the other way. This is where the Democratic Party looked the other way. This is not where Donald Trump, he is not looking the other way. The other day we sent a destroyer within 10 miles of one of those islands. I'd be very cautious, particularly in the One Belt, One Road and other aspects. All China's doing is they're taking the British East India Company model of predatory capitalism and they're running it in reverse. Don't think that any of these projects are for your betterment. They're not. This is not about the Chinese people. The Chinese people are under the worst suppression in the world of any nation on earth by this radical cadre, the CCP. And this is not about the containment of China. This is not about the Chinese people. This is about a business model of state capitalism financed by the West, technology provided by the West, that's for profit that's allowed this to happen. That is what Trump, and these are not a few simple things that can happen. This is not a trade war. This is an economic war. They've been running this economic war for 20 years. This deal is a truce. This deal is an armistice. It's not about are they going to buy more soybeans. We already know that's why all the liars on Wall Street that said the stock market was going to implode, the economy was going to implode, all the Democrats, everything's going to happen. Nothing happened on Wall Street. You know why? The Chinese have very few bullets in the chamber. They're looking down an economic shotgun from the United States. We cut them off on technology. We can put ZTE and Huawei out of business in 30 days. 30 days. They're looking down an economic shotgun. Because the Thucydides trap crowd in the West, in Berlin, in Paris, in London, in Washington, D.C., and Wall Street, they all said the West is in decline. And that is a fundamental lie.
This was to put in the Chinese wall. So they couldn't sit there later on and retrade the president, retrade the United States. The way you do this is you do it. You cut off the technology. You stop the forced technology transfers. You saw this NPR piece where the companies that had all the technology ripped off didn't want to raise their heads. They were afraid of retaliation. You stop the retaliation. And most importantly, you get the Wall Street hedge funds and the money managers and the investment banks, and you cut off the capital. If you cut off the capital, you stop them stealing the technology, you stop the forced technology transfers, you stop them from exporting deflation and overcapacity by these subsidies to state-owned industries. If you just make them play by the rules they've already agreed to, okay, it will be a transitional period. But on the other side, China will actually join us as an industrial power. We're not sitting there. This is not against the Chinese people. I have a great affinity. I've lived there. I've owned businesses there. This is about this radical cadre of the CCP that has an unsustainable business model. It's incumbent upon us. We have all the cards. We have all the cards. And now that's what Donald Trump's showing immense leadership in trying to do this. It'd be very easy for him to sign some trade deal where they bought more soybeans and have the cheerleaders on Wall Street say, this is terrific. Have the stock market go up for a moment, right? But what he's doing is looking at the long term. What people criticize him about, he doesn't have a strategic plan. He's got it. I think Tom Friedman understands it. He just wrote about it. This cuts to the core of what the world economy is going to be, and it plays to working class people, whether those people are in Germany, England, or in the United States. The system that China has, particularly the slave labor they have now in the Chinese population, this is about this radical cadre in the CCP. You cannot possibly have this totalitarian surveillance state. It can't exist. You have the industrial democracies, okay? What we're trying to do, and I think what Trump is trying to do very thoughtfully, is to bring them into really a world system, a system that Tom Friedman and others have talked about. The problem is we allowed the City of London, Wall Street, and the corporatists to create a system that worked for them and didn't work for working class people. Whether those people are in Ohio or Michigan or Wisconsin are here in Germany. This is why Donald Trump's president of the United States, it was as J.D. Vance points out, it's the sending of the factories to China, the loss of the jobs, and the importation of the opioids because of this crisis of kind of angst that has developed this crisis in the upper Midwest. That's why Joe Biden kicked off his campaign in Pittsburgh. People understand that this is where the presidential election of 20 is going to be decided. It was where the presidential election in 16 was decided. This can be a win. The Chinese business model cannot continue, and it won't continue. You can stop it by stopping the forced technology transfers, allowing the intellectual property and industrial espionage to stop, and stop financing. We have full capabilities in the West to stop this right now and help China evolve into a real industrial power along rules, the rule of law, and everything that they've agreed to for 20 years that they haven't played by. Not just not played by, done the exact opposite. Well, I think it turned around. I think you saw all the globalists at that time. You had a huge emphasis. Remember, that's when we didn't get a chance to build the wall. That's when we hadn't gotten our trade. We hadn't taken on China. If you look in the summer of 17, it was kind of the doldrums. And by the way, you should read, I think, the book by Woodward. I actually tendered my resignation to General Kelly on August 7th and then left 10 days later. But that was the doldrums. President Trump is now full on. He's building the wall. He's down there fighting the courts. He's doing a fantastic job in engaging on this economic war that China's been running on the United States. He's engaging the radical, Communist Party in China. President Xi and Yuan Shishan, these radicals that have taken control of China. You saw in this great effort he had in Japan over the last couple of days, which the mainstream media is focused on his Twitter feed. People in Asia are focused on how he has bound together the Japanese and the American military and the Navy and sent a very strong signal to the countries around the South China Sea that the Americans and the Japanese are going to work together to make sure those sea lanes are free. It was a very powerful couple of days for the president. So I think the president's on fire right now with this program back. He's completing the promises he made to the American people. That's why the economy's doing well, and I think that's why he's seeing an America First national security policy that people understand.